Hey there, everybody. It's Steven from Timebite, and I got something for you before you listen to this great podcast that's about to hit you right in the face, and that is that you should go check out Anchor, man. This website helps you for free start you up with any podcast that you would like in your little head to be making. Because you can record from your phone, you can record from your computer, man. You can distribute on iTunes, on Spotify, wherever your little heart desires, because your little grubby hands deserve it anyway. You can. There's no minimal listenership to get yourself started with getting anything that you want done, and everything's just in one place, man. Just go check it out. It's Anchor. It's the Anchor app or Anchor.fm on the internet. So, hopefully you enjoy the podcast. You are now listening to Timebite, hosted by me, Stephen Clark. Hopefully you enjoy the podcast. Hey there, everybody.
Hey, how you doing?
It's your boy Steve. Once again,
Thanks for I'm sorry.
No, sorry. I'm just running for the intro. I just drink water in it, and it's like freaking messing with my throat. But but yeah, welcome everyone to the Cyber Timebite episode 82 of the podcast, and your boy here. Your boy Steve can't believe I made it this far, man. 82 episodes. I'm so close to 90. It's crazy, man. I want to talk about something real quickly. I'm gonna make this real quick.
Okay.
This is going to be a little bit down the line because it's going to be whatever. But episode 67. Or not 67, was it? 87. Yeah, 87. No, wait, crap. 76. Yeah, 76, sorry. Episode 76. It was really weird because all of December, I didn't do, I was on a long hiatus because that month was crazy. I started doing re-uploads starting January 8th, and it's continuing on. So I want to say sorry for everyone for that, even though it's a little bit down the line by this point, by the time this comes out. But thank you for everyone for sticking around. But now that I got that cleared up, let's move on with this episode. And today I am here with the one and not the one and only, but someone who is training to get into the professional wrestling game, and I'm here with hashtag cable guy.
Hey Steve, thanks for having me.
Hey, no problem. It's great to have you on because I'm pretty sure not a lot of people know about you unless they listened to you Justin Incredible, as I may say, from ECW, on Twitter, and saw that, hey, you're that guy.
That's happened a couple times.
What, in real life? Like, walk down the street and just, and they say, hey, it's that guy?
Well, the one, I was at a show over the weekend, for Battlefront Pro Extreme, and, the one promoter there, when I met him the time before, I guess he was following me on Twitter and Instagram, and he says, "Hey, what's your name?" And I said, "Hi, my name is Ryan." And he's like, "Okay, what's your gimmick?" And I'm like, "Cable guy." He's like, "Hey, good to hear you. Good to see you, man. Happy that you're here." And he was just super welcoming.
I mean, like that. I mean, I want to briefly tell this over. I mean, before we started recording, we were just talking a little bit, getting to know each other, and you were telling me about how you started as like one of those. I'm not gonna say you were the guy on the cherry picker, right? Fixing people's cable for DirecTV. You were saying.
not so much a cherry picker. Where I was that guy who put the ladder on the side of your house and drilled the satellite dish in your roof, and then would run the wires all throughout the basement and what have you, and then hook it up to your TV and get that all working.
Yeah, so basically he was calling aliens. Ding 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 ding. No, I'm kidding. No, we know that satellite dishes don't call aliens. And if they did, this guy would be out of business.
You'd be surprised because like we had this app on the phone where you could like pick the right satellite you needed to get to right out of the sky rather than just using a compass. Yeah. And you'd be amazed. There's quite a few of them up there, so you never know what they're doing. So
that's crazy.
Oh yeah.
But you gotta confirm with me though. I mean, you've been doing that for a long time, but you gotta tell me. Is it? I mean, like I've seen it happen a few times when the weather gets bad, your TV doesn't work anymore, and all that crap and whatever. But has that changed over the years? Like how the weather affects your satellite signal and all that, or is that still a problem?
Somewhat, it's still a problem. There's a lot of factors that it depends on. And what exactly is going on outside. And there's also preventative measures you could take. Like if, for example, if ice built up on your satellite dish, towards the receiver ends and the tuner end, it would like weigh it down and it would throw it just a smidgen out of whack. And then it's not beamed onto the satellite. And then when it melted, it would pop back into place and it would work. So people would get dish warmers where it was like a big like hot plate they put to the back of the heater thing that they put to the back of the satellite dish, and therefore it always kept it at a certain temperature. And the rain, and it all just depends how bad the weather is outside. And so yeah,
that's pretty wild. But we were talking about that, and that was pretty cool. I mean, like, because everyone has their beginnings and where they begin. But obviously, for people who know you or people who don't know you, and I'm pretty sure a lot of people listening to this won't know who you are. And
okay,
and there may be people who do know who you are, but
no, it's fair. I know mostly I've been on the New England scene with Credible, and I've only been out in really my neck of the woods in New York like a couple times, so but it's fair and reasonable. So
just give it like unless you want to give us the long term version, what is your what was your journey like from the beginning to where you are now, and with the whole wrestling thing and your gimmick and all that stuff, and how your career became what it became, if you know what I mean.
Okay. I'll do my best here. Okay, so in the beginning, I sent out probably 1,000 emails, and initially I didn't really plan to do wrestling. I wanted to be like a Howard Stern shock jock style radio host, and see if I can get that gig. So I wanted to set up a podcast, and I sent out over 1,000 emails to people, and the only people who got back to me initially were the wrestlers, Sabu specifically. And he kept it real with me, and if you listen to it, it's really not the best interview. I've gotten a lot better since then, but he was cool about everything, and I got a lot better. And I was just to that point after a year of just not getting any kind of a response. I was like, all right, we're doing this, and I sort of rediscovered wrestling and my love of all of it at a bit later in life. But and I began interviewing some of it's all on my YouTube channel, Cable Guy TV. I interviewed all the wrestlers on there and a few actors here and there, and then it was finally when I reached out to Justin Credible. Him and we sort of clicked over the phone, and he started just giving me a lot of pointers on what I was doing right, what I was doing wrong, and ultimately said that I had to do more because the podcasting game, it is a difficult one. And so I told him that I wanted to be a manager and occasional wrestler, and he told me to come out and see him, and I did just that eventually, and I went on the road with him. It'll be 2 years in April, And he went out there, and my very first trip, it's actually kind of a funny story where at the time he sort of got into a little spat at home, and I had gotten a room at the Marriott, and they upgraded me to a suite, so I had like this whole other hotel room. I had like two hotel rooms to myself, and I was like, budget, why don't you come crash at the Marriott with me? And that he did, and it was sort of one of those moments in life that sort of everything in my life had sort of come to this, and I just went with it. And we went to Queens, New York for a Comic-Con autograph signing in the morning, and then after that we drove all the way to Dover, Delaware via the Jersey Turnpike, where he ended up getting in the ring later that night. And then we drove all the way back to Waterbury, Connecticut, and I did have the option to go meet Vince McMahon because we were passing through Stamford at 4 a.m, but I don't care if it was John F. Kennedy. I was too exhausted to talk to anybody at that point. And
wait, are you saying that WWE called you and they were gonna let you talk to Vince McMahon?
no, we were driving along the highway because initially, see, here's the thing: is that he promised me a whole bunch of stuff on the phone, and ultimately he delivered on everything he promised that week in time permitting, because he says we were going to stop by the office on the way, where he was just going to bring, because he has like a kayfabe like a key card thing to get in there to go use the gym.
Yeah.
And I guess that's one of the fringe benefits. And if you're loyal to Vince, you can go use the gym if you're in town. And Vince works out at 4 a.m, and it was about 4 a.m. we were passing through Stamford on the way up to Waterbury. And he's like, pull off here, I'm going to go introduce you to Vince. And I was just so tired and exhausted and fatigued and just really not in the mood to meet anybody. I'm like, we'll do it at the next trip. And we haven't done that yet, but when we have time, he said he'll take me down there and go introduce me to people, because why not?
So if I get this correct, when you and Just Incredible are basically road buddies, road buddies, and you guys go to shows together, but you guys aren't a tag team, but you guys just it's like you guys ride together to the same shows, but you guys do your own separate things at the shows, but you just ride together.
No, we're part of the same stable and everything like that. And essentially, see, here's the thing: is that at the time I really couldn't afford to go to wrestling school up here in Buffalo, and resources were limited at the time. And I used to box at an amateur level. I did it for around 4 years. And if there's one thing I learned from boxing, is learn from a professional, because this is your life. So I reached out and started shopping around to see who would who would train me. And I got a few responses back from some of the veterans. And at the time I tell Incredible what I wanted to do, and he's like, no, screw that, just come out. And essentially we go on the road together, and he just trains me on the job and they give me little spots to do during the match. And when I make it, I'm able to make the towns, they give me more and more to do. And yeah, so
that's pretty cool.
Yeah, so it's just something that sort of popped up out of nowhere in life, that at a very dark time, and I just went with it.
No, that's really cool. I mean, I would love. I'm just saying this, and I'm just saying that I would love to have Credible on the show, man. To talk to Credible, man, that would be cool.
I can make that happen.
Are you sure? I don't want to act like I don't want to feel like oh no, you have to do it now. I'm just saying it would be cool.
No. See, here's the thing: he's been really busy lately. Like, I was out over the weekend and everything, and and I ended up crashing at his apartment with his family and everything, and they were very good hosts. But it's just like he's busy with a lot of things. Like, they're still trying to finish up the movie Credible out there and put the finishing touches on that, and he is getting dates, every weekend and everything. So he's just, and on top of that, he's a father and a family man. So I'll shoot him a text, call him or whatever, and he'll do it. Trust me, he'll be down. He's a really good dude.
Yeah.
He took a chance on me and everything like that, and so he loves helping out the young boys.
Yeah, if you can do it, I would
Yeah.
I would appreciate it.
Yeah, it's no problem.
So have you met? So through your time with him, have you met like people like Van Damme, Dreamer, the Sandman, any of those guys?
Okay, I'll give you the list of people I've interacted, encountered slash seen. I met Tommy Dreamer in the Poconos, and he actually walked right up to me and says, "Hi, I'm Tommy Dreamer." And Tommy Dreamer is a very big, imposing man. Like TV doesn't do him justice, where he's very tall and broad-shouldered, and but very soft-spoken and kind. And then I just sat there and listened to him and Credible have a conversation and critique the match, and that was worth its weight in gold, in my opinion. So I've I've managed Buff Bagwell, and that was just sort of at a down point at towards the beginning where some stuff sort of dropped off, and I had interviewed Buff Bagwell, and turns out Buff and we have a lot more in common than just wrestling. We had very similar backgrounds growing up, and I just asked him, what is it going to take if you're ever in my neck of the woods to do a tryout slash one-off thing as your manager. And that was more like and honestly, it was more like a bucket list sort of thing, because like there were people who were fans of Hulk Hogan, there were people that were fans of Ric Flair, and then there were Buff Bagwell fans. And I think it was because he would go on before I had to go to betters. Yeah. So
yeah.
He and I didn't, and it was like a year and some change later after I interviewed him, and I just sent him a text when I was just frustrated and pissed off one day because I just didn't have a move, no leverage or anything to do anything or get anything going on, wrestling wise. And I reached out to him, and he's like, oh, yeah, it's still good. And initially the deal was I had to go pick him up from the airport in Syracuse because he can't drive at the moment. And then he called me back 2 minutes later, and he's like, okay, my agent's coming with me. And he said, all right, just meet me up there. And I was like, okay, it seemed, because in certain circles, Buff didn't have the best reputation. Okay. But
yeah,
he, and so we're like, okay. And so I had my one buddy ride up with me, and he's been on a couple trips with me for wrestling. And so we're riding up from Buffalo to Potsdam, which is at the very tip of the state, right by the Canadian border. And he rode the 5 hours up there with me, and my match is up there on YouTube. And I went out there with Buff and got to be part of the NWO for a night, and and actually Buff paid me for that too. And usually you don't get paid for this, when you're just trying out, and especially new in the business, you're just happy for TV time,
Yeah.
So we went out. Go ahead.
No, sorry. No, I'll let you finish it. I'll let you finish your story.
So yeah, we went out there, and Buff was, Buff taught me a lot that night about just how to do it. And yeah, we all parted ways as friends, and he was super cool with me, and and that's what happens. And I always told him I'll give him his due, and we'll let the cards fall where they may. And for the the fact of the matter, he didn't have to do anything for anybody. Okay, but
do you how did it feel to go with the gimmick? How do you felt staying next to Buff the Stuff and the girls can't get enough? Oh, Buff. That was his gimmick, right? I forgot.
I just love that, man. Okay. Buff was great to work with. Okay. He's, he very pleasant with me. He was professional. Turns out he still has groupies 20 years later when, I was at the store and I was in my gear, and, cause they didn't know I didn't know the promoter at the time. And I was supposed to meet Buff there first, but I was a little bit early getting up there before him. So we went to go eat at Burger King, and I'm sitting there changing in my gear in the Burger King locker room. And I come out, and these kids are like staring at me.
The Burger King locker room. I like how you call the bathroom the locker room.
yeah. I'm just talking on all the gimmick, man. Forgive me. And I had to use that changing table as like a table just to put all my stuff there. So because I didn't want it like touching the floor, getting all gunky. So. and then I ended up seeing that family at the show, and we were joking about like how they were staring at me, walking out of because it was like a blizzard outside, and then I'm walking out in a shorts and t-shirt.
Yeah. So
So yeah, and so we went out, did the match, had a great time, and yeah, and we parted ways as friends.
So are you saying that you guys aren't friends anymore?
Oh no, we are friends. We parted ways. Like he went back to Atlanta,
Oh,
and we're all still friends to this day. And then on top of it, my one friend who rode out with me, he's really really into music, and he asked for Buff's permission to take on the moniker of Bud Bagwell, and Buff fully endorsed and gave us his blessing. So
how I mean, like he seemed. I can't believe in all the episodes I've done in my show, I never had a full conversation about Buff Bagwell before. But anyway,
yeah, he was fine. Yeah, Buff was fine with me. Okay, and he didn't have to be. And at the time, like I said, I had no leverage. Maybe 50 followers on Twitter. Like, yeah. So
but he seems like a great guy. Seems like a great
yeah,
guy.
He is. He is. It's my opinion. It's you get in one little backstage fight, and is it really the end of the world? And when there's people who held Vince up for millions of dollars, which is low key extortion in my opinion.
Do you know this would be so freaking cool? What if for my podcast? Imagine this. No, imagine this. What if we did this thing where we can get you and Buff to get a match together. You and Buff are having a match, and and for one day I'm like your manager or something, and I'm wearing like my Cyber Timebite shirt with the spork on it and all that stuff, and I'm repping the podcast, and you're doing your thing, and I guess I would be a face unless you want me to be a heel, and we would do this whole thing where we could do this whole thing where I'm like the manager, and I don't know how it would play out, but I feel like that would be awesome and amazing.
Hell, if Buff down, I'm down, and if you could find a promoter who's willing to book us, I'm down.
Yeah, well, it probably have to be done here in Illinois because I don't have millions of dollars and can go halfway across the country to do something like that.
I'll tell you what. If you go, here's the thing: if you go and arrange all this stuff and you find someone who's willing to book it, and you reach out to Buff, it's a wrestling business. I'm sure.
Are you saying Yeah, but are you saying if I find a promoter that can be like, hey, Buff and Cable Guy here want to do a match?
Yeah, well, yeah, the promoter would have to, reach out to Buff and agree to, whatever he wants, But I'm down.
Yeah, I mean, because, I know that would be pretty cool. I mean, the other cool thing would be if there's a Royal Rumble type thing out there on the Indies or something, and they needed someone, I would totally freaking be in that thing.
Right? Yeah. I do Royal Rumbles because they're easy to do. So, hell yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, because there's a friend of mine who used to live here in Illinois who now lives in England, where for his birthday one year, his friends and a few few wrestlers that were professionals got together and for his birthday had a birthday Royal Rumble.
Hey, why not?
I want to do that.
Hey, if you arrange everything, make it happen. And you reach out to Buff. No, he's a pretty reasonable dude.
No, I'm saying if I wanted to do that, if I could find the way to do that, and I told you about it, would you actually fly here to Illinois and get a couple of people to fly out here with you to be like, holy crap, it's actually happening! On my birthday, I'm going for a Royal Rumble.
Sure, if you get the promoter, because here's the thing about professional wrestling is that after about 300 miles, that's when the promoter has to either fly you out or and put you up in a hotel, depending on the region. And Buff's in Atlanta, and I'm in Buffalo, so there's no driving there and back in a day.
No, I'm not. No, I just.
I'd be willing, man.
If you will.
But some other people that I've interacted with is I met New Jack once at the Comic-Con. I met Super Crazy, and I met Spike and Mikey Whipwreck. They were cool.
Yeah, I tried to get Mikey on this show. I mean, like I attempted once, and he's in. Me and Mikey like it's kind of like no, I love Mikey, man. He's one of my favorites. I mean, I tried to get him on the podcast, but like it wasn't working out. And now he has his own podcast, and now I'm kind of friends with Freeland, which is the guy who does the podcast with him and Jerry Lynn. So I'm kind of friends with him. So I sort of know Mikey, but I don't know Mikey enough to be like,
Right. That's understandable.
But tell me about New Jack, and sorry you met him because I know what kind of person he is in the real life.
Well, my interaction with New Jack was quite brief and to the point where he was getting up to maybe, I believe, go to the bathroom. Incredible was all like, "Hey, New Jack, can you do me a favor?" Because mind you, this is my first day on the road, so I'm all like, "Oh, wow,"
Yeah.
And but I'm not gonna lie, a tiny little part of me was sort of ready just in case, But I don't want to bash New Jack. Okay, he posed for me in the picture, and then I didn't want to interfere with what was going on and all the autograph, because there was a line out the door with autographs, and you really don't want to interfere with the money making going on when you're the new guy.
Did you actually get to go to the ECW arena?
Years ago, excuse, I apologize. I misheard. I thought you were talking about, because ECW used to come to Buffalo, and I went once years ago. But no, I haven't had the honor of going to Philly yet.
I'm surprised. I mean, being with Credible for 2 years, I'm surprised he hasn't been like, "Here's the ECW arena. Don't you love it?"
Here's the thing. It's just a lot of times he'll just give me a certain amount of notice, and because I got to go out there first, and Philadelphia just hasn't been on the itinerary. Believe me, I want to go to Philly and do the Rocky Steps and eat a Philly steak and cheese and hang out with the Sandman and all that.
Well, you probably don't want to hang out with Sandman because I think Sandman got himself in lots of trouble. I think.
Oh, back in the olden days, but from what I hear, he's toned it down a bit.
I mean, he cleaned up his life.
Yeah.
How about have you met Carino or Douglas or?
No, I've never met Carino or Shane Douglas. I had a Rockin' Rebel was on the very first show that I did with Credible down in Dover, and it was like a month before he went all crazy and what have you. And I always thought it kind of strange because it was at different times he was in ECW, but it just usually people come and say hello to each other, and it just he barely even acknowledged we were there. So, and then I read about him in the news a few weeks later.
So like how did your first year with Credible do compared to your second year with Credible do?
Second one went a lot more smoother.
You're right.
All right. I'm trying to think of the right way to elaborate this.
If it's too hard,
well, I'm trying to think. Well, let's put it this way. Year number one, it was right when he started to hit rock bottom, and then he started doing the movie, and things started getting progressively better and everything. And and then we don't got to bring up and open up old wounds and scabs, but if people want to know what happened during that timeline of like a year and some change ago, go read the dirt sheets, the wrestling dirt sheets. So there were speed bumps along the way, and ultimately, it got better, and he actually put me. I have a bit part in his movie actually, where I get interviewed by the director at one point right before the show, and I'm in the music video, "Seeing Red" by Crossing Rubicon, where we're all hanging out together in the beginning, getting out of the car.
Oh yeah, because I remember like just incredible. Like a few years ago, he was on YouTube all the time. He was making all these inspirational videos. He was interviewing people. Like he seemed like Credible seemed like this awesome, really nice dude. And then one day, for some reason or another, like he like. Some one day or some other day or something, like I go on Twitter one day and all of a sudden like something changed and he went all crazy and all that, and then like that must have been when he hit his low point in life.
Right, right. That happened like a month after I interviewed him for the first time.
Like what?
So
when that all happened?
when that all that not to bring that when that and here's the thing, it's like they did him filthy trying to. I'm not saying two wrongs make a right, but trying to publicly shame someone like that, is like, especially in the state that he was in at the time, is like kicking a man while he's down, and it was truly the last thing he needed at the time.
But
I'm not defending anybody's, like I say, two wrongs do not make a right, and everybody, we all have our issues in this world, and I'm a firm believer that your 20s are for figuring out what the heck is wrong with you, and your 30s, 40s, or 50s of knowing exactly what's wrong with you. Just try not to let it affect those around you, because who's perfect in this world? And you got to have a certain level of crazy to want to do the wrestling business, because there's a lot of ups and downs to it, and a lot of rejection you got to deal with.
Well, if we're staying in gimmick and we're saying who's perfect in the world, Kurt Hennig.
Oh.
No.
Kurt.
That's staying in gimmick, but in reality, no one's perfect.
Right. No one's and so it was right after that, shortly thereafter, then he got doing the movie, and that was because of Dallas Page and Jake Roberts was sort of helping out with that, but that movie is a work in progress. So as far as I know, they're putting the finishing touches on it, and it'll be out at some point. But yeah.
So how you met DDP and Jake Roberts and all and everyone at DDP's little thing over there?
I have not yet. I have not. I would like to. That would be nice, but I haven't encountered them yet. Past few shows I've been on, Credible was the main star that they bring in on them, and the rest it was regional indie talent. Not saying they were bad wrestlers by any mean. They're all really nice people, but
no one that I would know.
Not out in Illinois. I'm sure you got your stars out there, and these were all New England, New Jersey, New York, like New York City area, Connecticut, Massachusetts, that area.
So are you on the road now? Like, are you just like at a pit stop on the road, doing wrestling shows right now, or are you at home in Buffalo right now?
I'm at home in Buffalo right now. I just got back from the trip this weekend on Monday, and yeah, I'm home for a little while now. It's a very long drive, and it takes a lot out of you.
So I'm guessing you were Credible that whole last week, right?
Just the weekend.
How was that like? Where do you guys go? What cities do you hit up, and how was it?
We just went to Jewett City, and we were in the back of, I believe, called Alton's Music Hall, and this was a smaller venue than what that particular promotion usually does, because normally they rent out an Elks Hall that gets a couple hundred people, but it was a smaller venue, and they had it was like sort of like they're bringing back the old rock and wrestling, where there was a few bands that were playing,
mm-hmm.
and there was like a smaller bar in the back, so sort of like Joey Ryan's bar wrestling in a way, but with bands and such. And yeah, then and here's the thing: when I go out there, mostly we just hang out, and it's a lot of times the whole wrestling business is get to where you have to go, hurry up and wait, and then go out there, get yourself pumped up, and to do your thing for a few minutes, and then drive all the way back, and then you just want to go to bed. So mostly we were just hanging out, watching Netflix, and just talking about the business and everything, and yeah.
What's been your favorite match so far that you have done?
Oh, we had a lot of fun in Rhode Island because that particular promoter out in Woonsocket, he sort of gave people, just he was very general about what you wanted and kind of let you do it your own way. And but the one that I was doing, they're very, it was a lot more, tightly knit in a way where everything had to go a certain sort of way, and usually Credible or the guy Scotty out there, Scotty Anarchy, they would just find something to do for us on, just so we have a spot on the show. And because you got to, that whole thing about paying your dues and hierarchy and such. So you don't, just so you don't catch heat with people and that's that sort of thing. And because it can be a lot of fun, or if you get on people's bad side, they can rib you pretty bad. Nothing really in particular that's happened to me. I've ribbed a couple guys, and I've ribbed Credible, and I've ribbed Jack Stevens, who's also in the stable. But that was more outside of the wrestling arena.
What is the name of your stable, and who is except you and Credible? Who else is in your stable?
Okay, the name of our stable is called the Credible Club, and it is Credible, myself, Jack Stevens, and Scotty Anarchy.
Wasn't Scotty Anarchy in ECW?
No, he was not.
Because that's Scotty Anderson, right?
Yeah, Scotty Anarchy is a childhood friend of Credible's.
Ah.
Yes.
I thought because I thought I know there was a Scotty in ECW, and I thought that was him, and I was like, none.
No. They, I believe they went to opposing high schools, and Waterbury is a pretty tiny place, so they all ran in similar circles.
Did you and Credible become friends in a snap, or did it take a little while?
No, it was more instant friendship, because he gets my funny, twisted, dark sense of humor. I get his sense of humor, and he knows I mean well at heart, and that I was just looking for something different in life to do, and so we've always got on pretty well, even despite all the ups and downs in the past 2 years. So yeah,
that's pretty cool. Has he met your family before?
Not yet. He's over 300 miles away, and Buffalo, it's just really the closest he's came was Wadsworth, New York, and that was like an hour and a half from my house at the time, and he didn't, and he has to get back to Connecticut with his family and fulfill all those duties. So after the show got done, we gave each other a hug, and I went back to Buffalo, and he went back to Connecticut.
I didn't know he lives in Connecticut. Didn't he used to live somewhere else?
He lived in New Jersey for a time. They lived by the Jersey Shore.
Yeah, I think that's where he was billed from back in the day, was Jersey, I think.
Oh, Ozone Park, New York.
Oh, Ozone Park, New York? Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's someplace in Brooklyn or something. Because there's in Brooklyn and Queens, and there in Manhattan, there's all these, there's Harlem, but it's on the island of Manhattan type of thing,
Yeah.
Or there's Hell's Kitchen neighborhood, but New York has changed so much over the years. It's a lot different now.
Have you had the chance to meet Boss Mahoney before he passed away?
No, I did not. Yeah. He passed a few months before I got into doing all of this. So
because as you know, he was from Nutley, New Jersey, wherever that is. But
right, right. Yeah, there's a lot of these guys hail from New Jersey.
well,
I
I
think
mean,
it's because of its relevant. Because out there in like New York, New Jersey, Boston, there's major markets all within 2 hours. There's this thing that Credible taught me called the 2 hour corridor, where 2 hours in every direction there's a major market.
yeah, because it would because that's because I mean, like that's a Jersey, New York. That's close to Philadelphia, so I'm pretty sure a lot of these guys, it was easy for them to get to Philadelphia because they live so close and in the
Right,
all that.
right, right.
Do you did I hate that I'm sorry I'm centering it so much on ECW because Credible was an ECW and I'm thinking because of that you met a bunch of ECW guys, but were you also a fan of WCW and the WWE/F back in the day? Back in the day.
What's the question?
No. The question was is like, do you like WC? Did you like WCW and did you like the WWF/E back in the day?
Oh, of course I did. Kept me company on Saturday afternoons, Monday evenings, and Thursday evenings when I could get by a cable television because I had to rely on the C shows like Jacked, Metal, Shotgun, Confidential, all that good stuff. And it was only when I timed it out, if I just happened to be because I grew up with divorced parents and they all lived on opposite sides of town, so I had to time it out if I was going to be there, not to catch it on TV. And I was the youngest of five, so it's not like I had priority over what was going on the only TV we had. So if I was at my friend's house, I'd catch it. But a lot of times I got caught up by watching the C shows and watching the mid card guys, showcase their talents, all being caught up. And then my buddies and I, the ones who did have cable, we'd all throw our money in and order the pay-per-views once in a while and make a whole party out of it.
So you never got to watch Raw, SmackDown, Nitro, Thunder.
Occasionally, if I was at like a friend's house or something, or if I was like at like or if I was at my dad's when he did get cable eventually, and we just so happened to be there past the start time, and I was lucky. But also, we would order the tapes as well. Like I told you before we started, I'd order the ECW tapes, and occasionally we'd get the WWF tapes. Or this is also back when you could rent them from the movie stores. So
Mm-hmm.
I had to MacGyver all that to get all my WWE and WCW in.
Do you have a favorite? No, wait, not favorite. Sorry, I gotta rebrand my question. I was gonna say what was your favorite WCW pay per view and your favorite WWE pay per view in the past, but I first want to ask you, what do you think of today's product, of the current WWE product? What do you think of it?
It's no Attitude Era.
I think that's what everyone wants. Attitude Era.
Right. Like, don't get me wrong, when John Laurinaitis got fired and John Cena gave him the attitude adjustment through the announcer table, I'd be lying to you if I told you I didn't fantasize about doing that to some of the people I've worked for over the years and bosses I've had. So, and then when you have a rough day at work and you go home and you see that,
makes you feel good.
Yeah, it makes you feel better. Or at the time I was working a roofing job and we were trying to goad this one big dude into saying it's time to take out the trash Vince McMahon style and pick this dude up and then toss him into the big dumpster because he was the only one physically big enough to do that to somebody.
That's crazy. So yeah, so all in all, you're not really your thing.
Well, I'll try. See, here's the thing: is that back in the olden days, where they didn't use scripts, they used bullet points. as Credible taught me. And they gave you a bullet point of some point to get across, but you deliver it in your own way, and it seemed believable. And then it sort of took up this pseudo Game of Thrones complex where a lot of what people would look forward to each week is seeing the various different characters interact with each other and see how they would respond to each other. And now it all just seems so scripted, and the backstage segments are just ridiculously long, or the promos are just ridiculously long and rambling, and where I was taught from that school, try to keep it under 2 minutes. But that's just my personal opinion. Okay, there's always but there's always room for improvement, I guess.
So what's your favorite pay-per-view from ECW, WCW, and WWE/F?
Well, the one pay-per-view with the Heat Wave incident, that was pretty classic because at the time, I was sitting in a room full of like a bunch of people at like some kind of a social gathering or like a birthday party, and I'm like, "Ooh, pay-per-view!" And they're like, and we all know what happened during the Heat Wave incident.
Yeah.
When Bubba was screaming what he was screaming, and if you saw the look of shock and all the parents' face in the room, that it was glorious. And WCW, even though it was one of the worst pay-per-views they ever did, it was my favorite for other reasons, just because my brother and we had a lot of fun. It was the Halloween Havoc where the Ultimate Warrior came back, and essentially my older brother, who had about 40 pounds and a foot on me, I had to essentially like defend myself that whole pay-per-view from him trying to emulate the moves on me. And that was one of the most glorious, house-destroying family brawls you could ever imagine a teenager could have at that point in his life. And I liked, even though it didn't turn out the way I wanted to, and it was sort of when I smartened up to the business, WrestleMania 18, where the NWO was my favorite one. And I've never ordered an Impact pay-per-view. I'm sorry. I know that's a cop-out, but I guess they're getting better, and they got some really good talent there, like Brian Cage and Tessa Blanchard, and Johnny Impact when he was there.
I never ordered a TNA pay-per-view either, and I wasn't really the biggest TNA fan in the first place anyway. So,
right, yeah, it just wasn't my thing, and it was always on at times when I would like just not be able to watch it, and this was before we had DVR and such.
Wait, how would you feel about doing an empty arena match?
Sure.
You would do it?
Sure, against who?
Whoever you decide you want to do it against.
Yeah, that I've never been asked that before, but sure.
Here, better question. Who would you want to do an empty arena match with?
Oh, that's a tough one. Well, I'll tell you this. I've always wanted to do a stable versus stable match. Credible Club versus the New Heart Foundation.
Oh, you want your stable versus like Pillman Jr. and his stable?
Yes, and I've actually been in the talks with this guy with Randy Hogan as our manager. If you're familiar with who that is, he just popped back up on the scene, but he's a really nice guy, and we've been talking about trying to have him because Credible is in the process of getting called up to one of the major platforms, and we're trying to see if he would be down to, if I was lucky myself to do like a appearance or two, and I had to get in the ring, that he would come out as the manager.
That's really cool. I mean, like, as you probably saw, I interviewed Pillman Jr. on my show.
Yeah.
And
I don't think I'm on Pillman Jr.'s radar, to be honest with you. He's many levels ahead of me in this game.
But I'm Are you saying you would want to do that match in an empty arena? That match?
Empty arena, full arena, whatever,
Yeah, because because I honestly don't know how much it costs to do like it can't cost like that much to do like a match in like if you let's per se let's take my city for example and let's just take the All-State Arena for example. I don't think it would cost that much just to say hey we need to rent the All-State Arena with no one in it for like a good 45 or to an hour. That can't. Huh?
Hell, if you know people who work there or have it in there, maybe grease the wheels a little, they might just let us use it. Just a thought.
Yeah, I could just see you and whoever you want to verse just beating each other around an empty All-State Arena.
You got to get it on camera though.
Yeah, I mean, if you here's I got a deal for you. All right, if for some reason you can get a match booked for an empty arena match at the All-State Arena, like I'm talking like empty match, real empty. No one's in the building except me and whoever you're versing. I will videotape that whole freaking thing. I will do it.
Okay.
If you can make it happen. If you can make it happen, I'll do it.
Unfortunately, I do not know Pillman or the rest of the Hart Foundation all like that. I had a brief interaction with Ted Hart when I reached out to him for wrestling training, and he was one of the few that were nice enough to get back to me on it. And he pointed me in the right direction, but Credible offered a more viable deal for me that I could do at the time. Not saying that they wouldn't teach me. It's just I couldn't afford it. So,
I'm saying like it doesn't have to be like with any of them. It could be with anyone. I don't really care if you get to happen. I'll be more than happy to film it for you.
Oh, okay, sure. Well, I will have to get back to you on that one because I got to go out and figure out who or to whom that would be.
Yeah, I mean. Yeah, just do it, man. Just do your thing.
All right, I'll see what I can do. Okay.
No, it's cool. I'm not gonna force you into it. I just thought it'd be a cool idea.
No, I think it's a great idea. So.
So
yeah.
So we haven't dove into this yet, but your podcasting stuff. You do podcasting stuff too, right?
I did do a podcast for a little while. I haven't in a while. Credible had me on I Hate This podcast, and he does a podcast now with Vince Russo once a week. So we're still gonna do it, but it's just it's just we're all very busy, and it's kind of a whole production to do a podcast, especially when you're doing 2-3 people, getting our schedules to all line up.
So you did a podcast, but now you don't do one anymore?
No. Then I started going on the road with Credible.
Well, that's good. Well, I mean, at least if you're not doing the podcast anymore, you get to see him more often by like being in the same stable with him and doing all this stuff with him now.
Right. Yeah, I never imagined it playing out like this back when I had the podcast, and he just more or less smartened me. Like Joe Rogan makes money and can live off a podcast, or say Dr. Phil, okay, but it's or that dude who used to go around on TV and smash things with a bat about like the stock market. I can't think of his name. Okay, those guys make money, but it can be very difficult. And I gave it some time, and it wasn't exactly yielding the results. It takes a lot of resources to promote and to really plug your thing out there. And I find I like doing the wrestling shows better. Not saying I wouldn't go back to doing it at some point, but it's you really get the whole shebang going on the road and the whole experience of it all.
So, you have any funny road stories?
Oh, you betcha.
Have you ever ribbed the boys or whatever? Just let me
Oh
know.
yes. Oh, of course I have. I've ribbed Jax and I've ribbed Credible.
Tell me about your ribs and your funny road stories.
Uh, okay. Now I should warn you. This one is like maybe like PG-15, PG-16, where how I ribbed Jax,
Oh,
where I wrote on the memo for something for like a money order,
yeah.
and I don't know. I read on Reddit that it's fun to do this, where I was doing it to like my landlord and always writing it in the memo of just anything for what for, and I would always write for sensual massage, so they would look all silly when they have to go cash it. And when I handed it to Jax, and and uh, and he called me over the phone, and he's like, "What for sensual? What the?" You know, with
Yeah.
some other choice words while he's laughing his ass off. And Credible has ribbed me, and I've told this story before, but I will tell you about the time he mildly hazed me within a couple hours of knowing him.
Yeah.
Where it was my first time driving out there. I drove right to his house, met him there, and then said my hellos, introduced myself to his wife Jill and his son Christian, and his parents and his brother and his brother's son, and we exchanged pleasantries, and I went and checked into the hotel, grabbed a shower, and then I called him up and I said, "Where's like a Burger King?" And he's like, "No, I know better places to go eat." So I go back to Credible's house and pick him up, and we're driving along, maybe about 5 minutes away from his house, and he's just talking about just the wrestling business, and just telling me like, "Oh, you're taller than in person than your pictures do justice." And all of a sudden, the conversation just takes a hard right turn, where he began to go on and tell a very, very crude story about someone who I watched and idolized in my childhood, whose name I simply cannot mention because I refuse to believe. But on this trip alone out there, he verified that it was all 1000% true. And I was like, "No, not such and such and so and so." And he's just sitting there with his eyes closed, grinning, like, "Yes." I'm like, "No." Like, "Yes." It's like Darth Vader. You know it's true.
No, wait. Wait. He was telling you about a wrestler who did all this stuff, but he didn't really do all this stuff.
No, no. They did do all the stuff, all the messed up acts that I was told about, but I didn't want to believe it because this was one of my childhood idols.
Yeah. Oh,
Okay, and he wasn't like clenching his fist like Darth Vader, but he 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 knew what he was doing. He knew, and my world was mildly shattered that day, and it brought Credible some pleasure, and he admitted it. It did bring him some pleasure.
oh
So
God.
you
Yeah.
know, and yeah, and it still does give him pleasure bringing that up because it just caught me so off guard.
That's that's wild, man. That's a rib. That's a rib right there.
Yeah, and I intend to get Credible with the sensual massage thing in the memo at some point. It's just sometimes see. Here's the thing about Credible and ribs. Okay, he was ribbed aplenty. Okay, in his WWE and ECW days and such. Okay,
Yeah.
and he used to roll with Davey Boy Smith and Kurt Hennig. Okay, and those guys, they were, they rivaled Owen Hart in the rib department. Okay,
Yeah.
he would tell me stories that if you fell asleep on Kurt Hennig while he's driving, he would turn around and slap you in the head, and then blame it on like X-Pac or Davey Boy who was be sitting next to you. Or how this one story I was told where Credible was, and this is back when he was Aldo Montoya. They're in Wembley Stadium in the bar or by the hotel by Wembley or something, and it was one of Mike Chioda's first big pay-per-view checks. The referee. So he came down like this is just according to them, mind you. I was not there. This was 1992. Okay,
Yeah.
93 times. So Chioda came downstairs, and wearing his gold chains and his Scarface outfit, and he, I guess, went around and performed like 7 crossbody cock blocks in about 2 minutes. Okay, And Davy Boy was just looking like, because he was the married one, was like, this cannot stand. So, as I'm sure you've heard, people had a bad habit in those days of just going around putting pills in each other's drinks, okay? And Chioda passed out on the bar, and Davy Boy said, keep him down, Hippia, and ran upstairs to his room and grabbed a pair of clippers and ran downstairs and plugged him in. It was like, according to Credible, like a kid in a candy store, and proceeded to shave him completely bald. And so then Chioda came to, and when he got up and started looking around and looked in the mirror directly across the bar, it turned into instant rage, and he sobered up immediately. But unfortunately for Chioda, Davy Boy Smith is wrestling royalty, so according to Credible, he was just fine. He kept saying, I wasn't there, it wasn't even me, it might have been Owen. And then the next following preceding year, they came back, and there was people at the same bar, and there was people handing them pictures of Davy Boy Smith shaving him bald. And Credible has them somewhere, but they have not been able to be recovered yet. But they will probably be worth their weight in gold when they do.
That's pretty crazy.
Yes, we never did anything like that. You shave someone's head these days. Okay, they're gonna get up and they might want to punch your lights out, or they'll call the cops on you, or both.
I got a question, and I'm pretty sure you don't know Hulk Hogan, do you?
No, I have never encountered the Hulkster, not yet, at least. One day.
But what do you think Hulk Hogan's opinion on ECW actually is? Because he never talks about it. He never brings it up when he's in WWE. It's always WCW or the WWE, but he never talks about ECW. What do you think he thinks of it?
Well, that is a very good question, I must say. Because it's funny, because Credible and I were talking about how apparently Paul Heyman attempted to bring the Warrior in, but Paul Heyman just didn't have Warrior money, and WCW barely had Warrior money in those days. So maybe it was never just a thought to Hogan, because they probably simply couldn't afford Hogan in those days.
But did he know that they existed?
Oh, I'm sure he did.
Because huh?
He's no dummy. Hogan didn't get to where he is by making bad decisions.
Can you imagine if the NWO didn't make it, like Hollywood Hogan and the NWO made its way to ECW for like one night, not even on television, but like in a dark match? Like, can you imagine if that would have happened?
Oh, jeez, that would have been crazy. But yeah, that would have been a match: Hall, Nash, Hogan versus Sandman, Tommy Dreamer, and Credible. Because I hate to say it, when they went to WWE, they destroyed the character, because he was a world champion, and then they never really gave him a push but the hardcore titles after that. And he could have done the Intercontinental at very least, I would say, in those days, or at least a tag team title a few times with the X Factor thing.
But with the whole thing of Hogan trying to come back and have his final match ever in WWE, and Jim Cornette already talked about this on his podcast, and it's kind of becoming a thing of subject now. But what are your thoughts on people like Hogan, Sting, Dreamer? Well, I guess not Dreamer, but guys that are well established for decades in the business, and they want to come back for their very last match ever, Stone Cold, I forgot him, in The Rock and all those. Do you think they should come back and have one last match, or do you think they should just trail it out for the rest of their days and just stay in retirement?
Well, here's the thing about the wrestling bug. Sometimes it bites you, sometimes you want to lay dormant, and sometimes you just get restless. And my opinion, I like seeing them from time to time, and maybe I'd be lucky one day to get to manage them in a match like I did get to do Bagwell.
Yeah.
That's my opinion of it. And But a lot of those guys, they can't, they like they're just so focused on on doing other things these days. So it's sometimes very seldom that you see them. Like when was the last time we saw The Rock?
I think the last time we saw The Rock was the SmackDown debut on Fox.
Right.
Do you like The Rock?
I do like The Rock, and I was always, and see, here's the thing: when SmackDown got moved to UPN and like regular TV, I started watching it a lot more, and I was always grateful. And one of my goals that I wanted to get out of doing this wrestling thing is I've always wanted to do a one-off hosting gig of SmackDown because that was the only one I could watch, and I always liked watching it when it went to regular TV. So that would be a dream come true.
Why? What? Why Wait, didn't SmackDown start on UPN when it first became a show?
Yes, and then they moved it to cable, and I was pissed. And then they moved it back, and it was right when Hogan took the red and yellow again. So all's well that ends well, I guess.
I remember when SmackDown used to be on my 50 Chicago or on wherever the channel was by you, but it was like a whatever.
Right. Yeah, it's a lot of it is, it's just, they get into it with the networks, and if you read in a lot of these books where, at the time Vince was going through a lot of things with the networks because wrestling was one of the most successful shows on Raw's been one of the most successful, longest running shows on TV. But if you read in these books about how all the ways they kept trying to torpedo it, it's kind of ironic,
Yeah.
So.
I mean, like, I don't know. I mean, wrestling for me, like, wrestling has been like freaking been a part of my life for so long now that like it's crazy. I mean, like I actually back in the day, like back in high school. Yeah, I can't believe I'm calling that back in the day at this point. But but back in high school, I was always going to join my high school's wrestling team, and then eventually wanted to work my way up to get into the WWE. But then I decided to not do it because I went to the doctor one day and they told me that I had to go to the doctor like frequently, and I guess that kind of scared me away. But I found a different career path for broadcasting, and now I'm doing that. And now I do the podcast, and I did a few DJ jockeying jobs back in college.
Nice.
Because I went to a trade school, as you say, for broadcasting, and there was radio stations, and I did some DJ gigs in there. So,
how did all that go? What was your experience like with being a on-air DJ?
Like what, when I was in my broadcasting school days?
Yes.
Well, I there's two radio stations in the school, and there was one called Edge on Air, and there was another one called, I don't remember right now, but the one was more open with your choices and music, whatever, and the other one was like playing straight up underground bands that you would never hear of until you listen to us first. And I had a gig being DJ on the underground music station, and you'll never believe what the name of my show was called. Do you know what I called it?
What was it?
Straight Edge on Air. Gee, so creative.
Nice.
But no, I mean, it was, if you're asking for like how my experience was and all that stuff, it was really nice because like back then I think I had my iPod, but like what I should have done is that I should have timed my segments, because on the sheet that I was supposed to have, because on the sheet that you were supposed to fill out with all the songs you were going to play and all that stuff, they had like this 20 minutes, this 30 minutes, this 10 minutes, and I never really did that correctly. So my show would always end too early, or it would end too late. And so And so I was like, dang it. And so I did that for a long time, but if I were to do it again, like today, if I was asked to do it again, I would do it the way that I told you I would do it. I would time it out that time.
Okay. Good
Also,
deal.
yeah, and on top of that, I also did an internship at a little recording studio where basically it was I didn't record or do any like I didn't record or make any music or anything. It wasn't even doing anything what I had to do what I was doing in the school. He made me literally just like cut album covers and slide them into the thing and put them in the CD case and print the design on the CD. Like I was basically doing odd jobs.
Ah, gotcha. Okay.
But it was an experience. It was something, you know.
Right. I hear you.
But man, if that wrestling career would have worked out, man, that would have been an experience.
Hey, it's never too late. I started out at 29.
I know. I mean, I mean, when I look at it now, I'm 26 now, and I look at myself now. I mean, I don't think I want to do it anymore because I don't want to break my arms and give myself a concussion and break my neck eventually one day or anything like that. I mean,
right there are risks inherently.
But you've been naturally trained into doing this though because your whole life there was something there that led you into it. So
Yeah, well, like I say, I'm still in training, and I myself, I do have my limitations. I can only do so much at this given point in time. And so a lot of times with a match with me, it comes down to how good my opponent is. And I just lay down what I can do and so on. So, but that's, I guess with any match.
Have you ever what is it? Have you ever done a Falcon Arrow?
No, I've never been to Falcon Arrow.
No. I'm saying like, have you ever done the Falcon Arrow?
No, I've never done the Falcon Arrow. I can do part of a tag match, and I could do like a squash match where I can make someone look good, and I could get up on the mic, and I could talk a lot of what.
You can give them crap.
Oh yeah. So yeah, so a lot of times with the wrestling, you just got to be careful who you work with, and everyone who I've worked around was my friend, so I know they're not out to hurt me.
So have you ever been to or wrestled in Illinois?
No, I've never been out west yet. I've been trying to get booked out there, but no.
Well, I mean, like we do a lot. There's a lot of independent shows out here that'd be looking for guys,
Right. Hey, if I have fans out there and they want to see me and they want to bring me out there, I'm more than willing.
I'm pretty. I mean, like how well known around the country do you think you are? Like I'm just asking. Like how well known around the country do you think people?
I'm well, that's what I'm saying. I'm like a local regional-ish guy, if that. Mostly around the New England area. And that's why I was kind of surprised that you reached out to me like I did.
So you're like one of those guys that you're like one of the locals in your area, and like to the rest of the country, they're like newfound who this sort of thing.
Yeah, for now, like I have a presence on Twitter and Instagram, and I have little followings of people, throughout different parts of the world, and sometimes people will buy bandanas and T-shirts off me and watch whatever we're doing on Fight TV. So,
I mean, like, it was nothing against you. I'm just saying, I'm just saying in general, is the rest of the country, when you talk to them, they go, it's like the newfound who this sort of thing, kind of situation.
Not yet. It varies with who you interact with because I've interacted with some of the veterans who I somehow found my way on their radar, and then sometimes I'll start talking to local indie guys like you, and and generally everyone's been very pleasant with me.
I'm so honored, man. I never done anything on the indies, but I'm a local indie guy now. Yeah. No, 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 thanks, but no. I mean, but no, I mean, honestly, I think I told you I found you for Credible because Credible tweet. I think you tweeted about Credible or Credible tweet something about you, and then I was like, this guy seems interesting.
Right, I hear you. I hear you. I appreciate you bringing me on and everything. It's been a lot of fun.
Because hey, I mean, I want to open this platform to you so people can figure out about who you are.
Okay, okay. Well, there's many layers to the cable guy. I'll tell you that.
You're like the lasagna layers.
Oh yeah, like the lasagna of wrestling. Each layer's better than the last.
Oh man. Well, we've been doing this for an hour and 15 minutes. And
I know. I'm having a blast.
Oh man, I think. Is there anything you want to ask me? By the way, I mean, like anything you want to ask me that you're curious about?
What are your plans for the future of the show? Are you going to keep it geared towards wrestling, or just like popular culture, cosplay in general? And the other thing is that I noticed did you play D&D back in the day?
I never really truly started playing it until literally November because I went to a convention up in Wisconsin with a few friends of mine, and we started playing it in a Denny's at 4 a.m.
Yeah,
and then we started playing it there, and then I started getting into it. I'm still a very fresh newbie. Don't get me wrong; like I'm no master yet, but
right. We used to play it all the time back when I was in high school, but eventually I was that one guy who always, when I'm allowed to tell the story, it always takes very twisted, dark turns, and then they just stop playing with me.
Have you ever asked Credible, like, hey man, you want to get Dungeons and Dragons with me, man?
No, I don't think he plays Dungeons and Dragons.
Do you think he?
What's that?
Do you think he would want to though with you?
I don't know. Maybe when he first met me out of curiosity, but now because he's known me for a little bit, or maybe after the right type of convincing, maybe. But also the second I started having to take dark twisted turns, and here's the thing: is like when you ride up and down on the road with someone, okay, it's like trying to rib him. He has 3 kids of his own. He's like over a decade older than me. Okay. He's called me. Credible's called me out a few times on some things on the road, and my craziness, and so it's very hard to catch him sleeping. So he would just see it coming like from a mile away, like that twitch in my eyes, where I'm going to give him some twisted ultimatum, and he will have answer A and answer B, and whichever answer he chooses, he is wrong.
Because I could just see it now. Like, I feel like Credible would make a character somewhat off the Impact players. Like, he would call he would call his character something Impact.
Right. But hey, you never know. You could always tweet him and ask him.
I think
he's very active. He's very active on Twitter, and he usually gets back to people.
I think I tweeted Credible, I think like a few times, and he never got back to me. Maybe because he was busy or whatever. But
right, yeah. He see a lot of these guys. They got 1 million people tweeting them, 1,000 times a day. And when you get a bunch of tweets coming in, eventually you stop getting the notices on your phone, and you just see it whenever you go on. And sometimes it's hours before you can check the thing, and then when you're just like overwhelmed when you got like 100 100 notices, and so it's probably nothing personal.
Yeah, I mean, no, I understand that. I mean, like, I if did I answer your question though?
Yes, you did. You did answer the question.
Oh yeah, I forgot because we were rambling on and on about that. I forget if I answered your question or not. But yeah, I mean, I'm gonna I'm gonna chug along this podcast as long and as far as I can until I can not do it anymore. But
Okay. Okay.
but like, I mean, even though I am a huge wrestling fan, I do like getting wrestlers on here, but I just like bringing people on for things that I love, like cosplay, conventions, wrestling,
Okay.
anything.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Right. I hear you. Those are all really cool, interesting things, and each one has its own unique fan base, I find.
Do you think you get if when you get popular enough in wrestling, are you going to make a cable company called Credible Cable?
Uh, if I become John Cena successful, I'm avoiding just the communications, and because I've worked a few years in various aspects of it, and that business is all sorts of fudged up and just head for the hills. If like when I learned a lot of the ins and outs of it, went back when I was a cable guy, and we're yeah, it's yeah, no.
No, Credible Cable. For only $5.99 a month, you can you can get you can get the you can get packet you can get 50 channels of nothing but just incredible matches.
Jesus. Oh, that's a lot of credible right there.
Well, it's Credible Cable, and it's just incredible.
Oh my.
Oh man.
Excuse me.
Oh man. Okay. Well, thank you everyone for listening to episode 82 of Cyber Timebite. You can follow me on Facebook at Cyber Timebite. You can follow me on Twitter at NostalgiaVamp. And you can buy my merchandise at redbubble.com under Crash Steven Gear, where even you know that the sport is the most powerful of them all. How about you? Hello?
Hello? I'm here.
Yeah. Yeah, how about you? Share your socials?
I'm sorry, you keep breaking out. What's that?
Your social media?
Oh, okay, my bad. You kept breaking out. Okay, yeah. I'm on Twitter at RealCableGuy1, and I'm on Instagram, RealCableGuy. Each word is spaced out.
So you're only on Twitter?
I'm on Twitter and Instagram.
You're on the gram?
Oh, yeah, you betcha.
Oh, man. Well, with that being said, I would like to thank you all for listening, and I hope all of you. Oh, and thank you by the way for coming on. By the way.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you for having me. It's been a blast.
Hey, no problem. I want to thank each and every one of you listening. That I hope all of you have a great day. Have a nice one.